Hey there, everybody. Wait, I know you want to skip ahead to the video, but trust me, this is important. So, here recently, things have been kicking off on the Patreon. I mean, really, they have been just skyrocketing. So, we just want to let you all know, for that when we hit 1,000...
Oh, that was messy. Well, so... as things were being said before, you know, somebody didn't wait his turn, we have a Patreon. Yes, that's right, we have a Patreon. And it's been doing quite well. But you know what? It could always be doing better. Boy, that sounded conceited. But you know what? It's fine. So, there's goals on there for $1,000 a month and $2,000 a month. Also, early access to our videos. Extra bonuses on our Discord. The benefits just keep coming, so go check it out. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go practice medicine.
So, a little while ago, we did a Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critics review of the Son of the Mask, which
Nope.
Wish we hadn't.
That didn't exist. It didn't happen.
That was
Nope.
very well portrayed as the pure spawn of the devil, and quite possibly one of the worst films ever made.
It's up there.
It didn't happen.
Elena, denial is the first roadblock on the road to recovery.
I thought that was the third one.
No.
No.
It's denial,
anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Yeah.
Oh,
So
well,
it's the
fuck.
first roadblock. It's the first roadblock.
But we all know I'm not going to get to acceptance.
No,
You
but
generally don't ever make it past anger.
Hey.
sometimes she gets angry. I've seen her get angry.
That's her secret. She's
Always angry.
Well,
Generally at me.
Nope.
Anyway,
well, there you go. So, I made a comment.
All right. Go ahead.
I made a comment during our escapades with Son of the Mask, and I stated that there was another Doug Walker video that was out that reading the title of interested me very much, and this was it.
Okay.
This is, was the mask supposed to be gory? So, okay, everybody here has seen, I think, has seen the Jim Carrey original.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The cartoonish antics in that, would you say were very well pulled off considering the time in which it came out?
Mm-hmm. I think
mean,
so.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm not sure if it holds up, because I was a kid the last time I saw it.
And, you know, you thought about it with a kid mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very Looney Tunes.
Which, in all honesty, to me, I still think they pulled it off, because I saw the mask here recently, and I was like, there's a few things that stick out to me. It's just like, okay, that's kind of blatant with its CG, and they could have done something different.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But in all honesty, from what we got, I was still very pleased with it. And boy, what could have been with the second Mask movie? Where would they have gone? What would they have done?
I don't know that I don't know that there's really a way to do a sequel to The Mask.
There might have been, because in all honesty, the mask could have found its way back to him. Because let's think about this. You remember how the first movie ended, right?
Yeah.
With Milo fishing the mask out of the water and swimming back to shore with it.
Yeah.
So the mask could very well find its way back to Stanley, and Stanley has to go on more escapades to save the day or get in more shenanigans. I don't know. That it's a never was that in all honesty, I thought about a lot when Son of the Mask originally came out.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays I'm just like, what could have been? You know, there's always the what ifs.
Yeah.
in
I mean,
life.
and I think maybe there was even a way to make the Loki angle work. Maybe.
Possibly. Maybe he could have been the primary villain.
Yeah, but the execution was not there.
No.
And I mean, now there's no way. It's just never going to happen.
It's about impossible.
Yeah.
You'd have to restart from the very beginning, and you'd have to
fair,
find
though,
someone who is as manic as Jim Carrey.
What's Jim Carrey doing these days?
Growing an awesome beard.
Yes.
That's about it.
Growing an awesome beard and being kind of a paranoid guy. Which, in all honesty, that's on him. But, okay. We got this video queued up here. Let's get it on screen. And let's give it a watch.
All right.
Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic.
Hey, Doug.
Remember it so you don't have to.
Let's go,
A
Doug.
lot of us are familiar with the hit film The Mask. No, not that one, but trust me, that's hilarious. You'll get a lot of laughs out of that. No, I'm talking about the Jim Carrey movie. Featuring cartoony visuals with groundbreaking effects and spawning several spin-offs, including a TV show and an instructional video for the Antichrist. Most of you won't be shocked to know that The Mask was based on a comic book.
Yep.
This is no big surprise. I mean, the movie was about a weak guy getting superpowers to save the day. But that's not the kind of comic book it was. The comic book was disturbing as hell.
Yeah.
It was violent, intense, gritty, and so gory that I'm just going to warn you now that if you are the tiniest bit squeamish, you should not watch this from here on out. No, really, I know it sounds silly, but The Mask can be so bloody it can actually make people queasy. It is that intense. Oh, I see. You're still watching the video, so you think you can handle it. Well, just to make sure you made the right choice, let me show you this little brief scene from the comic where a guy starts cutting his cheek. Yeah, he's just doing that for fun. Can you just hear that spelled out sound effect? Still think you can take it? Well, how about another panel of him doing the same thing, only this time a little closer? Notice how much detail they're drawing in there with the veins and such? Still good? How about one more panel that they include? This one, the closest. Oozing with red, where you can practically see all the art of it. The purpose of this editorial is to show the difference between two seemingly different yet still related works of the same name. Do these differences make them stronger? Weaker? Do they help them stand as individual pieces? Or confuse whatever mood and tone they were trying to get across?
I have a permit for that.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Published in 1991, The Mask at first seems to start off like the movie. A wormy dweeb named Stanley Ipkiss is everybody's punching bag and wishes he could fight back. When getting a present for his girlfriend Kathy, that being the artifact of the mask, he tries it on for fun and, like the film, turns into a green-headed loon who can't be destroyed and now operates on cartoon logic. Well, okay, so he gets revenge like in the movie and cartoon hilarity ensues, right? Not exactly. While some scenes are similar, the effects of his cartoony nature extend only to him. So, when he makes a Tommy gun out of a balloon, he doesn't scare the annoyances with it, he blows them into hamburger. And when he sticks car parts in the mechanics that ripped him off, they don't just moan at a few butt jokes, they're left as bloody corpses. In fact, Ipkiss in the movie says he might become a superhero and ends up saving the day. This Ipkiss goes on a killing spree, not just getting revenge on people he doesn't like, but just anyone in general. Suffocating a teacher, massacring total strangers, and slaughtering cops just doing their job. It's, kinda sick. Ipkiss in the film is a hopeless romantic who just wants to be the cool guy. Ipkiss in the comic is a psychotic maniac who doesn't care who he kills or how. Where in the film he's called the title, The Mask, in the comic he's known as the Big Head Killer. Again, very different from the movie, seeing how he never spills one drop of blood. But if you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to spend an entire comic series with this guy, don't worry, he dies very early on. Kathy gets fed up with his shit and blows his brains out, resulting in her dropping off the mask to a local cop. Take a guess what the cop's name is, by the way. You guessed it, Calloway. Jim Carrey's foil in both the movie and the cartoon. But the cartoon draws him closer to the original source than the movie. But where in both of those he's a side character, here he becomes the lead. No big surprise, the cop tries it on and everything starts all over again. Only this time, he uses the mask to try and stop crime. However, he's just as violent and blood-hungry, to a point where he almost kills his best friend. Figuring out he can't keep it under control, he buries the mask and the nightmare seems to be over. That is until the second run of the series, The Mask returns. Burglars break into Calloway's house and disarm him. Trying to find a way to fight back, he digs up the mask but gets shot before he can use it. Yeah, kind of weird seeing all these characters you grew up with suddenly get horribly maimed.
Yeah.
One of the more timid and cowardly gangsters has the mask forced on him, and once again, it's used for evil. He uses it to rule the mob and take out threats to his mafia world. He even blows up an entire wedding because a mob boss is there. It's insane how mean-spirited this comic is. Feeling guilty for Calloway being shot, Kathy infiltrates Big Head's network and steals the mask for herself. When she finds she can't destroy it, she realizes she has a responsibility to end the mob war the mask started. So she slips it on and starts taking on the mafia herself, only to come across someone who seems just as indestructible. A giant of a beast named Walter. Now, while this character didn't appear in the movie, he does appear on the show. He was a mammoth of muscle and strength whose entire life is violence. Whenever he wants to entertain himself, he'll do something as messed up as punch nails into his hand, forming a happy face. Or, as shown before, just cut himself for laughs. He's about as intimidating and as uncomfortable a character you can get. Working for the mob, though, he discovers a unique fascination with the Big Head Killer.
Fan of his mother.
Presumably because they both seem indestructible. So, while all the other mob members try to run for their lives, Walter stays behind and won't stop until one of them is dead. This goes on for hours until Kathy decides she can't control it anymore and knows whoever has it is just gonna kill everybody eventually anyway. So she decides she doesn't give a shit and hands it over to Walter, who intriguingly has no interest in it. She's even kind of pissed off. Why wouldn't he want it? It doesn't seem to make any sense. But before that can be answered, Calloway wakes up from the hospital and drives a car into Walter, losing both him and the mask. Things seem to settle down until the third revival, The Mask Strikes Back. Now, this series is especially interesting because it was written after the success of the movie.
Yeah.
And it clearly shows. A group of teens come across the mask and use it not to murder, but just to do teen stuff. Become a rock star, go on a party spree, and even become a superhero. The violence is replaced with more wacky visuals that fit more in the Jim Carrey movie than it did the comic series. Even when blowing up a bomb in a police station, the cops are just covered in black soot. That kind of thing would never happen in the first series. But it does allow for some really fun and inventive artwork, and they do still sneak in some grisly images, as Walter nurses himself back to health and is looking again for whoever has the mask. This time, though, he's not screwing around. When he has the mask, he knows what to do with it. He slaps that sucker on, only to find it does nothing. Yeah, it has no effect on him. This is one of the biggest mysteries of the mask ever. In fact, Walter's whole relationship with it is kind of a big question mark. Why did he want it when it was first offered? Was it more about the fight? Did he want to feel he could defeat an entity that was never defeated? If so, why did he want it later? And when he did try it on, how come it didn't work? Was he so destructive naturally that the mask couldn't add any more? Or was he so big and strong that the mask couldn't even fit around his face? This again would never be answered, as he launches the mask into the air and Walter disappears forever. Which brings us to the last of the series, or what many people consider the last one that matters, The Hunt for Green October. Yeah, I know it's a dumb title too. While a bunch of assassins are searching for the mask, a father is looking after his child who has emotionally shut herself off from the world. This being because her mother died. She won't talk, smile, she barely even communicates. The father comes across where the mask landed though, and naturally tries it on and uses it to go after the bullies who mocked his kid. But things become tricky when his daughter wants to dress up like the Big Head Killer for Halloween. He has to tell her no because that's a psychotic killer, even though he is the psychotic killer.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop her from trying anyway, as she's booted from the school dance and made fun of once again. This is easily the most depressing part of the series because a lot of it does center around this kid's pain. But it does add a twist when she comes across the mask herself, and for the first time ever, a child is now the Big Head Killer. The climax centers around a battle between the assassin group, Calloway, once again looking for the mask, and our father and daughter duo trying to get out of it. It certainly had more violence and gore than the last series, but the artwork was starting to get a little too busy and maybe a bit too rushed. But there was still something to the heavier moments that made it feel like it was worth getting through. After that, the mask mostly lived in spin-offs, trying to draw attention to more Dark Horse comics and looking more and more like the Jim Carrey version, less and less like the one that started off. There's even a series called The Mask and the Joker. Yeah, it gets pretty silly. But still, whenever somebody mentions the Mask comic, the first thing anyone usually thinks is that bloody, intense version, just for how shocking and uncomfortable it was. With a movie that's aimed more towards kids and more friendly humor, does it really make sense to have something so bloody and so mean-spirited out there? Kinda. At least, if it's any good.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles starting off really bloody and gory. There's some X-Men comics that get pretty violent.
Oh man, yeah.
As long as it's done well, I don't really mind that they both have their own unique style. I mean, I'm not gonna act like this is Shakespeare or anything, but if you look at these comics the same way you do, say, a monster movie series, it's actually rather engaging. They are stories of revenge and giving into your inner demons. And because it switches from person to person, sometimes that can be good and sometimes that can be bad. Sometimes people have it on for just the right amount of time, others they have it on for too long and get lost to the madness. It's a story about becoming consumed by your bad side, how much is needed and how much goes too far. You see this kind of stuff all the time in classic horror and, yeah, even classic fantasy. And that mask does have a very Ring of Power feel to it, doesn't it? So you would think the film and cartoon would be horrible representations of the original source material. Well, it's the same way the 60s Batman is a bad representation.
Yeah,
It's just kind of its own thing. They use the same characters and ideas, but for entirely different means. The film of The Mask is more of a slightly adult cartoon, Tex Avery with real actors. I don't think the early 90s would have been ready for something this weird and violent yet, especially with a star like Jim Carrey at it. And even the cartoon, which does borrow some elements from the comic, it's still mostly an anime version of the movie. But much like the 60s Batman, it's a fun segue to something different and more adult. It's like Jekyll and Hyde mixed with the Looney Tunes and the Punisher. It's disturbing, gory, and psychotic, but it's also gothic, creative, and holds your interest. So I say it's fine to enjoy both versions and what they have to offer, even if they are very different things. Whether it's to hear somebody say smoking or literally see somebody smoking, there's two different versions of the same story to entertain whatever strange mood you're in. I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember? So you don't have to. It's Nostalgia Critic The Awesoming on DVD. Along with some of your favorite reviews and scenes, there's new material, like The Inspiration for Hyper Fangirl, a Nostalgia Critic review of the Cinema Snob movie, a Nostalgia Critic review of The Review Must Go On, a Nostalgia Critic review of his old home movies. Yes, the ones Mara Wilson tormented him with. Bloopers, a recreation of the Lost Face-Off review, with Nostalgia Critic's dad as Rachel. The Origins of Santa Christ and more. Shipping begins March 21st, so order today.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. That's what we call a dang old.
That's a daggone
And
hoo
don't
boy
forget
right
to
there.
see Doug this weekend at C2E2.
Yeah. So, yeah, The Mask was violent.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
I did not either.
I had looked into it a little bit because I read stuff because I don't have anything else to do.
Well, you like to know things.
Yeah, it's sort of a way to catch up on the childhood I was supposed to have, or was theoretically supposed to have.
Fair enough.
But I mean, if you think about it, so if you look at like Looney Tunes, for example, one of the reasons that they got they fell out of favor was that parents thought it was too violent.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, realistically speaking, no one gets hurt, and it's pretty obvious that the reason is that they're cartoon characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Mask comics takes that idea and says, okay, what if we actually did that to people? Like, that's exactly what it is.
I get that.
Yeah.
That's a good quandary because, in all honesty, you hear about these kids who carry out these, who do wrestling moves. Even though there's the warning and everything.
Oh yeah.
The kids do the moves on each other, and they do it's like, rock bottom to the table, or Stone Cold Stunner.
They also don't know how to do the move in such a manner that they don't actually hurt anybody.
Exactly. And
because that's, I mean,
sorry.
Looking like you're hurting somebody without actually doing it
Is
not the easiest thing in the world.
Well, it takes talent. It takes time. It takes effort. And
It takes
learning.
it takes a lot of choreography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning the moves and learning everything. Yeah, it takes effort, and
Yeah.
you got to put forth that effort. And it's just like, for me, this happening. Well, okay, if that did happen in the Jim Carrey movie, the only person that actually died was the main villain at the very end, where he flushed him down the drain.
Yeah, and even then, like, he's gone. That's not dead.
That's not the mask, using the bomb and actually like open wide and say ah.
Yeah.
And then blowing him up and thus giving the Club Coco Bongo a new paint job.
Oh yeah.
Dang, man. I can't imagine what it would have been like if it had been a rated R film. I mean,
well, I imagine it would have been somewhat similar to what we ended up with Deadpool.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Good God, you're right.
Yeah, I mean it's a very similar thing, except that both are perfectly deranged.
Yes.
Deadpool breaks the fourth wall. The Mask just breaks reality.
I think The Mask is more gory than Deadpool was. I'm not saying Deadpool didn't do some gross stuff.
Well, Deadpool also, I feel like, had to hold itself back just because of media. Because otherwise, it's just going to be ridiculous and nobody's going to want to see that.
Yeah.
Or rather, no normal person is going to want to see that.
Yeah,
Your
true.
average viewer is not going to want to see that.
So it's sort of an odd thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's media. I mean, honestly, media. I mean.
Yeah, and I mean,
media changes all the time. I mean, certain forms of violence are more accepted later on. And other forms of violence are appalling later on.
Yeah, like, for example, a lot of people wouldn't let their kids play Super Mario Brothers because there's all kinds of violence involved. Jumping on turtles, stomping Goombas, all of that. Yeah, and you laugh because it's stupid. But
it happened.
That was the belief, and now, Mario is a beloved children's franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now parents don't bat an eye about buying their kids Grand Theft Auto 5.
Right. And then you look at, for example, the chair shot in wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be widely accepted. Like, that was the thing.
Yeah, chair shot to the head was commonplace.
Yeah. Now it's very, very rare.
Mm-hmm. If at all. I mean, the only time I've really seen it is like a variant, never a straight one, but like a variant. Like, they throw the chair up and the guy gets punched, and like they punch the chair into his face, versus the full-on over-the-head pow chair shot, which
it's used more as punctuation and in a very ridiculous manner.
Yeah, it's
rather
like a
than
wink at
people
people
it's like,
who've been
hey,
wrestling.
you guys remember these?
Yeah.
Wham. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at what happened to, you look at everything that happened to Mick Foley.
Oy.
That sort of stuff would not happen modern day.
Yeah. Well, 11 unprotected chair shots to the head. I mean,
falling off the top of Hell in a Cell.
Falling through the Hell in a Cell.
Falling through the Hell in a Cell.
Getting caught on fire.
Uh-huh.
Getting pushed into thumbtacks multiple times.
Yeah.
Also, getting part of his ear ripped off by the ropes in the ring.
Uh-huh. Mick Foley. Good God, man.
Okay,
Good
hold on.
God.
Let me look up. Okay. Hold on. Siri?
Sorry.
Oh.
I can only take...
Okay.
Toughest son of a bitch on the planet.
Here's what I found on the web for toughest son of a bitch on the planet.
Mick Foley.
There you go.
Like, no shit. There's Mick Foley. So there you go.
Dang it, Siri.
Ask Siri who the deadliest son of a bitch in space is. I wonder.
Who is the deadliest son of a bitch in space?
Nathan, your language.
It's Isaac Newton. Sir Isaac Newton is the deadliest son of a bitch in space. It's the Mass Effect reference.
Good God.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway.
All
Yeah.
right,
So basically,
yeah.
like the media wouldn't allow it, but yeah, what they did was essentially the media friendly version
Which,
of having all the gore. So
well, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. So, all right. That's going to do it for tonight. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning in. This was the Mask Supposed to Be Gory by Doug Walker, a.k.a. the Nostalgia Critic, whom I'm still floored by the fact that he likes us
yeah.
and is aware of us. I mean, Micah, look at Micah. Micah's just like,
That's crazy.
Still can't believe it.
have we shown you that video?
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you once again,
Ooh.
Doug. Thank you all out there for requesting this, and also to all of our supporters on Patreon and our Discord. Thank you all. Signing off. We're the Renegades. I'm Nate,
I'm Ben,
I'm Elena.
Micah.
and this is Chico.
and we will see you later, everyone. Peace out.
Bye.
I keep hearing that noise.